The lore of the first 4 Sonic games is incredibly fascinating to me. I especially like how Sonic Adventure 1 further expands upon the lore of Angel Island while giving us clues to how the other settings of the first few Sonic games ended up. Shockingly, I'm not seeing a lot of people either talk about the lore present between the trilogy and SA1, or maybe they're just not aware of it. I'm probably not in the right circles to see this type of conversation happening. But in doing my own research on areas like South Island from Sonic 1 and West Side Islands from Sonic 2, it turned up with very little information. Even websites like Sonic Retro offered very little information about the first 2 islands. So the aim of this video is to bring to light some of the lore buried deep within the first 3 Sonic games, and tie everything together at the end with a brief story that I hope makes sense to those of you watching this video. Thanks, by the way. Now, originally, this video was going to be part of a longer series. I'm a massive nerd for 90s Sonic Team. That group to me was a force of great ideas and executions when it came to gameplay and storytelling. So, to pay tribute, I was going to make a series of videos which I detailed how Sonic Team crafted their stories through gameplay in games such as Sonic, Nights into Dreams, and Burning Rangers. But I was having trouble coming up with a way to present the whole nature versus machine ideas, so obviously evident in the first 3 Sonic games, with a fresh perspective. In this struggle, I ended up doing much more research into the lore of the islands, which I found infinitely more interesting despite the lack of it I was able to find through surface level research. So naturally, I began to dive deep beyond the surface level. I watched a few Sonic Iceberg videos, read a few forums of Sonic Retro, peeped some fan theories on Twitter, and found translations of the original Sonic game manuals crafted by Sonic Team themselves. These manuals greatly expand upon the story more than what we see in the games, and I recommend giving them a read. It just sucks that the localization team for America came up with their completely separate canon for no real reason, as I find the story of the OG Sonic games much more interesting than the whole Mobius thing, which opened up an unnecessary can of worms when it came to Sonic Adventure 1 for Western fans. I'm gonna go in order, starting with info I've gathered for Sonic 1's South Island, then 2's West Side Island, and then finally Angel Island from Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Before I do though, shout out to the Great Lange on Twitter. They made a really good Twitter thread that lined up with most of what I was able to come up with on my own. Go peep it, and let's get started with this thing. South Island, a treasure trove of jewels and ruins. It is said that the islands have a mysterious connection to the Chaos Emeralds, a set of powerful gemstones which no one knows how to obtain. The island is constantly moving along the ocean, due to its connection with the emeralds, which exist within natural distortions created by the island. This explains why it's so hard for anyone to find them. In Sonic 1, the 4th level, Labyrinth Zone, has some noticeable imagery of what appears to be owls along the background walls and as well as on the ground Sonic walks on. I'll even go a step further and say that these things that shoot out what I'm assuming are fireballs are also depictions of owls, or at least some type of other bird due to the beaks that we can see on them. There are also these totem poles seen throughout the Green Hill Zone. Totems, in real life, were used by Native Americans to pass down stories, historical events, and ancestry through generations. Now, I can't read totem poles, but the ones in Sonic 1 seem to be different from the ones found in real life. They rely solely on facial expressions that we could possibly decipher as moments in history. The angry expression possibly resembling times of strife and potential battles and wars. The wide-eyed section of the totem signifying the observative nature of the inhabitants throughout their history, and the squinted eyes, round mouth section of the totem can represent the birds talking, maybe passing along info amongst each other, or spreading their knowledge and reach along what I theorize to be a larger landmass that existed once upon a time. If you want better looking versions of the totems, peep the ones from Sonic Mania. They depict the totems as owls, which lends even further credence to the theory that South Island was once home to some ancient bird civilization. From these observations, we can induce that owls, or birds in general, were the dominant species that lived on a portion of a larger landmass that would come to be known as South Island. I'll expand upon that later. Sadly, that's all the info I could get from looking deeper into Sonic 1. Even with the Japanese manuals at my disposal, it didn't really do too much of a deep dive into the things that fans have observed for years, but maybe that was by design, as the notion of a dominant bird civilization can also be seen in Sonic 2. Before we get into that though, the lore behind Sonic 2's West Island is very interesting. A long time ago, the people of Westside Island developed their civilization using a single mysterious stone. And prospered to their heart's content. However, there were those who tried to misuse the stone for the stone was sealed away somewhere on the island by the gods. That, well, if you can't see what's going on there, then I don't know what to tell you. Although, I'm not too sure about the whole sealed away by the gods thing, but I have my own theory on who those supposed gods were and who exactly was being punished. Nevertheless, the connection between the three islands becomes more and more clear as we go along here. In Aquatic Ruin Zone, the third zone from Sonic 2, the final boss of Act 2 shows two large totems of birds. Now, based on what we've gathered from doing some digging into Sonic 1, it's easy to conclude that the bird civilization, rooted in South Island, had an extended reach that we see present in Westside Island. Surprisingly, there is less lore about Westside Island than there was about South Island. Westside Island feels like a small extension of the bird civilization lore from Sonic 1, and a massive layup for what is easily the most interesting of the three islands, Angel Island. The floating island, drifting through the sky, was once part of a continent. The people of the civilization built a peaceful and prosperous one through the use of a certain single mysterious stone. Unfortunately, the elders of this society tried to use the stone's power for evil! The stone's energy went rampant, which resulted in the civilization being completely wiped out and erased from history. Supposedly, after this incident, the gods descended from the heavens and launched this part of the land into the sky, leaving those who survived to learn from the mistakes of those before them, and guard the stone, making sure a great evil wouldn't rise to create another catastrophe. There's really only one area in Sonic 3 and K that I want to focus on here, and that's Sandopolis Act 2. In the background, there appears to be hieroglyphics of what I'm assuming to be echidnas and birds interacting. If what I'm assuming here is true, it really shows how overarching the reach of the bird civilization was. And I could finally stop beating around the bush here, as I'm now going to piece together some things before tying it all together. Some additional information: Westside Island and Angel Island both have their own hidden palace zones, designed to be places to keep the Chaos Emeralds safe from any potential dangers or people who are trying to use them for their own evil purposes. I even saw someone theorize that Labyrinth Zones from Sonic 1 could be a hidden palace zone, so make of that information what you will. So based on all the information that we have here, the first thing we can obviously do is conclude that South Island, Westside Island, and Angel Island were all once connected as a continent. The influence of the birds stretched well throughout this continent, with their homes mainly being based in a region that would go on to be known as South Island. The echidnas occupied Westside Island, but their reach was not as wide as the birds. Based on the story from Sonic Adventure, it is revealed that the echidnas tried to use the power of the emeralds to extend their own reach. This angered the gods who looked over the emeralds and caused devastation across the land, which split apart the three islands into what they are today. Now, I will attempt to put together a small story expanding on what I just pieced together. About 4,000 years ago, an ancient society of owls and echidnas discovered the 7 Chaos Emeralds on the continent which they lived on. The 7 emeralds, along with the giant gemstone that would come to be known as the Master Emerald, exhibited such power that the owls and echidnas began to worship them as gods. They built a shrine in a secluded area and left the emeralds there, coming back every now and again to worship the emeralds and seek guidance from them. A mysterious species known as chow were drawn to the emeralds and began to occupy the shrine. One chow in particular had experienced more exposure to the emeralds than the others and would become an evolved being known as Perfect Chaos. Perfect Chaos took on the role as the overseer of the Emerald Shrine as well as the chow who lived there. The owls and echidnas would build their own perfect civilizations using the power of the Master Emerald. Perfect Chaos never showed itself to the people, sensing no initial malicious intent from both species. The echidnas lived in prosperity under a matriarch, but her son, Pakakamic, showed an aggressive side of himself, one that would prove to bring the downfall of civilization if he were to rise to power. The elders realized this and had their own shrines built based on visions they began having. The visions came to them likely from Perfect Chaos, communicating to them through the Master Emerald, who warned them of a coming catastrophe if they were not careful. One shrine was known as the Hidden Palace, a place where the echidnas would hide the emeralds in case a great evil tried to take them. The other shrine built foretold the story the elders had visions of, a great dragon-like creature, born from an egg, unleashing destruction and devastation throughout the land. Just as these shrines were completed, Pakakamic's mother passed away before they could attempt to subdue his wicked desires. He was soon crowned as chieftain and immediately began to build a regime to aid him in his quest for power. Under Pakakamic's rule, the owls sensed oncoming tension and prepared themselves for battle. The two tribes came to blows. Pakakamic's daughter, Tikal, shared a special connection with her grandmother and did not approve of the senseless violence and fled to the Emerald Shrine where Perfect Chaos made itself known to her. After spending time with the Chow in Perfect Chaos, Tikal returned to her tribe and desperately tried to reason with her father to put an end to the violence and try to restore peace. Her father obviously disapproved, enamored by the amount of land he had conquered through raw power. He wanted more and concluded that the power of the emeralds would grant him ultimate power. Tikal took one final stand, but her father and his army just would not listen. Tikal and the Chow were trampled, which greatly angered Perfect Chaos. It revealed itself to the echidnas and used the power of the seven emeralds to transform into the dragon-like creature inscribed on the murals. Perfect Chaos was close to destroying the entire continent, if not the world, but Tikal made one final wish to the Master Emerald to seal Perfect Chaos inside of it along with herself. The Master Emerald granted Tikal her ultimate wish, and now, with the power of the Chaos Emeralds at her disposal, Tikal scattered them across the continent, carved out a piece of land, and uplifted it high into the sky, hidden in the clouds. In the aftermath of this incident, the remaining members of the Owls began to explore the remaining land in search of the seven emeralds. They discovered the one remaining piece of Echidna civilization. The shrine, which was dubbed the Lost World, foretold the story of the great dragon-like creature that they had seen devastate the continent. Heeding the warnings of the murals, the birds went back on their search for the seven emeralds. They managed to find 6, with the 7th being well hidden due to Tikal's power. The owls resigned their search, using the 6 emeralds to carve out their own piece of land from the continent, a land that would drift along the sea, in contrast to the floating island that would drift through the clouds. The birds isolated themselves on this island, making it their sworn duty to protect the emeralds. They would inscribe their stories through patterns in ruins and totem poles found throughout the luscious green landscapes. These birds would eventually reach the brink of extinction due to their isolation. Some of the remaining few decided to repurpose themselves and seek adventures beyond the sailing island. Other creatures would populate the land over time, eventually naming it South Island. Back on the now floating island, Tikal had instructed the remaining Echidna to protect the Master Emerald and ensure that what happened would never be repeated. Unfortunately, Tikal began having visions of Perfect Chaos's destructive resurrection and a mechanical beast attempting to steal the Master Emerald and use it for evil. However, in her visions, a ray of hope shines through. A hedgehog, outlined with a golden aura, would appear and put a stop to the beast's actions. She created a mural of this prophecy within the hidden palace for the remaining echidnas to pass down through the generations before going back to reside within the Master Emerald with perfect chaos, awaiting the day they would inevitably be at odds with the world once again. And that's my theory. Like I said at the start, Sonic lore is incredibly interesting. If you want more information, I'll link a bunch of videos, tweets, and forum threads, along with the Japanese manual translations for you guys to look at. I didn't even go into SA2, which has lore that implies Sonic is the ultimate life form, or even other theories like Sonic being the real perfect chaos, or at least the form of it that represents true freedom. As I said, this stuff is well worth the digging. I just wanted to share my own theory because I really enjoyed putting this together. This video shoutout goes to Tamahiro, once known as Tamashi Hiruka, one of the very first PokeTubers I ever watched alongside the Jay Wits and Renee Collects. Tama, in my opinion, has a pretty unique outlook on the Pokemon games, and has even changed how I look and play them. Give her content a peep if you're interested. That's all I got for now, so peace.